Joining me now on today's episode, John Chick of Locked On New York Rangers. And John, this is certainly not the biggest trade or move of the offseason, but one that could have big implications for both of our teams down the road. Defenseman Nils Lundkvist comes to the Dallas Stars in exchange for a handful of draft picks, including a conditional first-round pick in the 2023 draft that could potentially be, I believe, a top 10 selection, depending on how some things play out for the Stars this year. Is this a move that you were expecting to see from the Rangers? What are your overall thoughts on the move? What kind of ran through your mind when this move went down on Monday night?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, it kind of felt inevitable just because, Nils Lundkvist basically decided to go home, told the Rangers he wasn't going to be at rookie camp, told the Rangers he wasn't going to be at normal training camp, and essentially forced their hand. I mean, on one hand, I suppose you could say that Chris Drury was under no obligation to trade him because we saw a similar situation with Vitaly Krasov last season, demanding a trade, and now you fast forward a year and he's still here, and it looks like he might be out there on opening night. But certainly, Drury, if he got an offer from one of the other 31 teams, I mean, that's all that it takes, right? And if he got an offer that he felt was fair and about the right value for Nils Lundkvist, I think for sure he was going to pounce on it because, when you've got somebody that's essentially refusing to be part of your team, I think it certainly behooves you to, listen to some offers, and when you get a good one, to strike. And I for one, am thrilled that the Rangers were able to get a first-round pick for Nils Lundkvist. He only played 25 games with the Rangers this past season. Flashes here and there, but I don't think he really exactly sent the world on fire, got sent down to the AHL, and to be able to get a first-round pick back in exchange for him, I think Drury knocked it out of the park with that trade.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people were really surprised on Jim Nill's side of things, the Stars GM, to trade a first round pick, not really something that he's done over, his time as the general manager of the Stars. And not only a first round pick, but for a guy, like you said, who only has played 25 NHL games, certainly does have some upside, only 22 years old. So, you can't really write a guy like that off. I mean, they still have plenty of their career ahead of them, but still kind of seems like a weird move. But at the same time, if you kind of take a look at the Star situation, John Klingberg is now gone, a member of the Anaheim Ducks, and the Stars really need some defenseman depth alongside Miro Heiskanen, who really seems like the only sure thing on this blue line for this Stars team. A few other pieces that could contribute, but we just don't know what we're going to get. Based on the limited action that Lundkvist saw this past year, only 25 games, and just kind of what you've heard, what you've seen from him, what can Stars fans expect to see with the player like Nils Lundkvist?
So just to kind of take it from the top and, give you guys as much context as possible, Gerard Gallant came in, was the new coach this past season. And, under those circumstances, you think there could be, a lot of roster battles, going into the season because, I mean, hey, he's the new guy in town and he's learning his team and everything. But he pretty much said the only true roster battle last year at this time was basically Nils Lundkvist against Zach Jones for the sixth and final defenseman spot. It ended up being that Nils Lundkvist won the battle and he got to start the season, on the roster for the Rangers. And I'll be honest, from what I saw from him, and again, it's a relatively small sample size, 25 games. Nothing he did really kind of jumped off the page to me. And there were times where it looked like the game was just moving kind of fast on him, which is not uncommon. I think he was 21 years old at the time, young defenseman, young team in general. And of course, he was saddled with Patrick Nemeth as his defense partner, which is not going to do anybody any favors the way that he played this past season. But yeah, I mean, as Ranger fans, we've gotten a little bit spoiled because we've seen so many young defensemen basically just kind of hit the ground running, whether you want to go back to like Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren or some more recent examples like Keandre Miller or even Braden Schneider this past season, who ended up basically taking Nils Lundkvist's job. There's been a lot of trial by fire for Ranger defensemen, and most of them have passed it with flying colors. For Lundkvist, though, again, he scuffled a little bit. And the one big thing that he can bring to the table for pretty much any team is his ability to quarterback a power play. With the Rangers, that's a little bit redundant because obviously they've got Adam Fox on the top unit. And I mean, nobody's going to unseat him, Norris Trophy winner 2 seasons ago. And then you've also got other offensive-minded defensemen like Jacob Trouba, who plays on the second unit. Keandre Miller can slot in there as well. Lundkvist got a crack with the second unit last year on the power play, but they didn't really get a lot of ice time, and that was true whether he was out there or not. So he never really got a chance to show one of the biggest things that he could bring to the table, that being the ability to quarterback a power play. And it's kind of unfortunate for him, but I think somebody of his skill set is more valuable to a team like the Stars or probably a lot of other teams than it is currently to the Rangers. Because, like I said, there's a little bit of redundancy there. The Rangers have some good offensive defensemen, even with him not being there.
For sure. And you talk about him being able to quarterback a power play. That could be big for the Stars going into this year because that was kind of John Klingberg's role for the past several years. And Miro Heiskanen is obviously a great defenseman, but still trying to hit his stride offensively. And hopefully, a coach like Peter DeBoer, who has a history of getting some good offensive production from his defensemen, can get a lot out of Heiskanen, who I would expect would be quarterbacking that first power play unit. But then maybe a guy like Lundkvist can, depending on how training camp goes for him, come in and be on that second unit or at least be in contention for a role on the power play. I think that could be really interesting. And, we're recording this, I guess, a little after 24 hours after this trade went down. And more Stars fans are starting to kind of realize that there's a lot of offensive upside with a guy like Lundkvist, but maybe the defense isn't quite there. Just, there's a little bit of a lack of size. But overall, I think this could very well be a beneficial trade for both sides. Obviously, it might pay off for the Stars a little bit sooner, but you gain some more draft capital with the New York Rangers. Always, a good thing to get that. So, not a huge cap hit for the Stars either, as they're still looking to sign Jason Robertson. But all in all, a good deal. And I know the last time a former Rangers defenseman came to the Stars, he ended up getting his number retired for the Dallas Stars and Sergei Zubov this past season. So we're just going to have to see what happens over, however long Lundkvist stays with the Stars.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I think for pretty much everybody, this is a good thing. I think for the Rangers, getting a first-round pick, I can't argue with that. And for Nils Lundkvist, he kind of gets a fresh start, the opportunity to have a much bigger role in the Stars than he did with the Rangers. And, of course, the Stars organization themselves, like you were just saying, they get a young defenseman with some upside and a little bit of a buy low, op here for them. I mean, they gave up a first-rounder, but if it works out, I mean, hey, it's going to be great for the Stars. Dane, I do have one question for you, though.
Sure.
I think Ranger fans would be curious about this. I was looking at the depth chart for the Stars, and, it's just one website, but they had him on the second pairing alongside, I believe it was Lindell. And I'm just curious how you see Lundkvist fitting in. I mean, I know that you just got him and you're kind of, learning about him and everything, but I mean, is he going to be a top 4 role? Is he going to be quarterbacking the top power play unit? Just kind of give us a feel for that if you could.
For sure. Yeah, I certainly think there's an opportunity for him to be on that top 4. Like I said, it's really kind of a mixed bag. You have Miro Heiskanen at the top, and then you do have Esa Lindell. You have Ryan Suter, who's probably going to be in that mix as well. Thomas Harley's probably around the same age. I think he's a little bit younger than Lundkvist, but another young defenseman looking to kind of make his mark on the NHL this season. Those are the guys kind of in the mix. You have Colin Miller coming over from Buffalo, Yanni Hakanpää, who the Stars got last offseason in free agency. I believe he last played for the Hurricanes. So there's plenty of guys in the mix, but what's special about Lundkvist with the Stars is that he's a right-handed defenseman, and if you look at the Stars roster, almost all of the defensemen are left-handed, including Miro Heiskanen. And so there's even a possibility not only could he be top 4, if things really go well and he really has a nice camp and has a nice preseason, he very well could find himself on a top pairing with Miro Heiskanen because, he can provide a little bit of that offensive side. And then Heiskanen, while hopefully taking a step forward offensively, can be a little bit more of the, the pure defenseman, the guy that's going to make plays on the defensive side of the ice, while, a guy like Lundkvist could take a little bit more responsibility as far as trying to play make and or shoot the puck.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. And like we were just saying a second ago, Dane, I think that, again, this is one of those rare trades where I think everybody comes out of it feeling pretty good. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I mean, do you feel all right about this trade?
I do. It was kind of a weird one. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I thought kind of the Stars were done making moves outside of trying to sign Jason Robertson before camp. So it seems like a pretty good payoff. It's kind of weird to give up a potentially top 10 pick in next year's draft. But if the Stars have a good year and Lundkvist plays a big part in that, it's going to be hard to complain. So yeah, as of right now, I do feel really good about this deal.
All right. Sounds good, man. Well, I mean, hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate, doing this. And I know the Rangers and Stars play each other pretty early. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I want to say it's like late October, the first month of the season. I think it's like a Saturday afternoon game or something like that.
That sounds right.
So, yeah, man. So, I mean, if you're up for like a full-blown crossover episode, I'd be happy to make that happen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I know we didn't get to do one last year. So if we can do at least one this year, if not one for each game, we should definitely do it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, man.